Most people who try to open a nursery don't fail because they're bad at childcare. They fail because they're trying to navigate one of the most heavily regulated, high-stake businesses in the UK completely on their own. And I say that with a lot of compassion because the people I speak to are often incredibly capable, experienced practitioners, managers, parents, even people who've run other businesses successfully. But childcare is different. In this video, I want to talk honestly about the real reasons people get stuck, give up, or lose money when trying to open a nursery. And more importantly, how the people I work with avoid those mistakes and actually get their settings open. But before we get into all of that, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel, Open Nursery with myself, Kurt Dania, where I support you to open, run and grow successful nurseries. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe for more videos supporting you to run a successful nursery. But here we'll talk about the real reason why most people fail to open a nursery. And one of the biggest things I see when people come to me is guilt. They'll say things like, maybe I'm just not cut out for this, or I must be missing something everyone else knows. And I want to be really clear, that's not what's happening. Opening a nursery isn't just about knowing how to care for children. It's about navigating planning permission, building regulations, safeguarding law, Ofsted expectations, staffing ratios, funding rules, financial forecasting, policies, procedures, inspections, all at the same time. Most people underestimate how complex this is because it looks simple from the outside. And when you're trying to piece everything together through Google searches, Facebook groups, and outdated advice, it becomes overwhelming very quickly. This is why people don't move forward, not because they lack ability, but because they lack clarity and structure. And this is something I've seen time and time again with people across the UK. Once the process is broken down properly and decisions are made in the right order, everything starts to feel far more manageable. Now, I want to talk about the real reason people fail to open nursery. And when I say fail, I don't always mean they shut the idea down completely. Often, failure looks like being stuck for years. It looks like having a building but never getting registered. It looks like spending money and getting nowhere. And these are the patterns I see again and again. Firstly, choosing the wrong building. This is one of the biggest and most expensive mistakes people make. People fall in love with a building because it looks nice, the rent feels reasonable, or it's in the right area, without fully understanding whether it actually works as a nursery. What often gets missed is whether the layout supports ratios and supervision, whether the building has the right planning use, whether adaptations will cost tens of thousands, and whether fire safety, outdoor access, or flow will be an issue. I've spoken to people who spent months, sometimes years, trying to make an unsuitable building work, pouring money into it, only to realise it was never viable in the first place. And by that point, they're exhausted and financially drained. Another huge reason why people fail is underestimating what Ofsted actually expect. A lot of people assume that if they have the policies, a curriculum document, and a nice looking environment, they'll be fine. But when it comes to the registration visit or inspection, they struggle to explain safeguarding confidently, articulate their curriculum in practice, answer questions clearly under pressure, or show how children's needs are met day to day. This is where confidence drops, and Ofsted picks up on that very quickly. I've seen people with lovely settings fail simply because they didn't fully understand what they were being asked or how to explain their practice. The third reason is no real financial plan. This is one that catches people out badly. Many people start with a rough idea of fees and costs, but they've never properly worked out their break-even point, realistic staffing costs, how funding actually impacts income, and how long it will take them to become profitable. So they open, or try to open, with hope rather than numbers. And when unexpected costs hit or occupancy builds slower than expected, the pressure becomes overwhelming. This is one of the biggest reasons people either delay opening or close shortly after. And the fourth is trying to piece everything together alone. I see this a lot. People spend months, even years, trying to piece things together from Google searches, Facebook groups, conflicting advice, outdated templates, and well-meaning but inaccurate guidance. The problem isn't lack of effort, it's information overload without direction. People end up stuck because they don't know what to do first, what actually matters, what can wait, and what will cause problems later on. So progress slows, confidence drops, and the whole idea starts to feel impossible. Reason number 5, they have no one to sense check decisions. This is a quiet one that doesn't get talked about enough. When you're doing this alone, there's no one to say that building won't work, don't sign that lease, or you're overthinking this, focus here instead, or just to tell you you're actually ready, you just don't realize it yet. Without that reassurance, people second guess everything. They delay decisions, they over prepare, or they wait for certainty that never comes, and eventually they either give up or stay permanently stuck at the almost ready stage. All of these things combined are why so many capable, passionate people never get their nursery open. Not because they weren't good enough, but because they were trying to do something incredibly complex without the right guidance. This is the part of the journey that I find the most rewarding, the turning point. Because once people stop trying to do this alone, everything starts to change. And I don't mean that it suddenly becomes easier or stress-free, but it becomes clear. The biggest shift I see is from confusion to clarity. People stop guessing what the next step should be. They stop jumping ahead. They stop working on things that don't actually move the process forward. Instead, they start working through the process in the right order. They understand when to look for a building and what to look for, when to speak to the council, when to start policies, when to apply to Ofsted, and what actually needs to be in place at each stage. That alone removes a huge amount of stress. Another big shift I see is confidence. When people are supported properly, they stop second guessing every decision. They know why they're doing something, not just that they're doing it. So when it comes to Ofsted, for example, they're no longer trying to memorize answers or hope they've said the right thing. They understand safeguarding, they understand their curriculum, and they understand their role as a provider. And that confidence shows in how they speak, how they respond to questions, and how they present their setting. There's also a really important shift from hope to planning. Instead of relying on best case scenarios, people start working with real numbers. They understand their costs, they know their break-even point. They thought through staffing, funding, occupancy, and timelines realistically. That doesn't just protect the business, it protects their mental health. And this is where I often say to people, you don't need to rush, but you also don't need to be stuck. This is the point where things start moving forward again. And this is something I've seen again and again and again and again and again with people I've worked with across the UK, different locations, different budgets, different backgrounds, but the same pattern. Once the process is clear, progress follows, not because people suddenly become more capable, but because they finally had the structure and support to use the capability they already had. And this is the part I think really matters, because one thing talking about what should work and another actually seeing it work in real life. As I've mentioned, I supported people to open nurseries all over the UK, different areas, different budgets and different starting points. Some were experienced managers, some were practitioners stepping into ownership for the first time, some had tried and failed before, and some were told it wouldn't be possible for them. But despite all those differences, the outcome was the same. They got their nurseries open. What I find interesting is that when people look at these journeys from the outside, they often assume those owners were just more confident, more knowledgeable, or more business-minded. But that's not what made the difference. The difference was they weren't guessing, they weren't rushing, and they weren't doing it alone. I've watched people go from feeling completely overwhelmed, doubting themselves, being stuck for months or even years, to suddenly having clarity, direction, and confidence. And once that happens, things start moving very quickly. This isn't about luck, and it's not about having inside connections. It's about having the right guidance at the right time. One of the things I've noticed is that my clients don't succeed because they work harder than everyone else. They succeed because they work smarter. they do a few key things differently. Firstly, they choose buildings properly. They don't fall in love with a space before checking whether it actually works as a nursery. They assess layout, ratios, flow, planning use and long-term viability before committing financially. That alone saves them tens of thousands of pounds. Secondly, they prepare for Ofsted early, not at the last minute. They don't wait until registration to think about safeguarding, curriculum or leadership. They understand what Ofsted are looking for from the beginning, so when inspection time comes, nothing feels unfamiliar or overwhelming. Third, they plan financially, realistically. They know what their cost will be, how funding impacts income, what their break-even point is, and how long it will realistically take to become profitable. That means fewer surprises and far less stress. Fourth, they sense check decisions before making them. Instead of second guessing or hoping for the best, they ask questions, they reflect, they make informed choices. And finally, and this is the big one, they don't rush, but they don't stall either. They move forward steadily, with purpose, knowing each step is taking them closer to opening, not sideways or backwards. That's the difference structure and support makes. It doesn't remove responsibility, it removes unnecessary risk. One thing I do want to say very clearly, and I say this with a lot of respect, is that trying to open nursery alone is one of the biggest risks people take in the process. Not because people aren't capable, not because they aren't intelligent or experienced, but because the cost of getting things wrong in childcare is so high. A wrong building can cost you tens of thousands of pounds. A poorly prepared Ofsted visit can delay opening by months, and a weak financial plan can put you under pressure before you've even started. And the thing is, most of these mistakes don't happen because people are careless. They happen because people don't know what they don't know. When you're doing this alone, there's no one to stop you signing a lease that doesn't work. There's no one to tell you that you're focusing on the wrong things too early. And there's no one to reassure you that what you've done is enough. So people either rush and make expensive mistakes, or they stall, waiting for certainty that never comes. That's why I always say to people, support doesn't remove responsibility, it reduces your risk. It helps you to make informed decisions in the right order with confidence. And in a sector as regulated and high stakes as childcare, that makes a huge difference. So if you're watching this and thinking, I can see myself making some of these mistakes, then it's probably worth some guidance before you go any further. You don't need to rush, and you don't need to decide anything today, but having the right support early on can save you a huge amount of time, money and stress. The reason why I offer structured support is because I've seen when people struggle. People don't need motivation, they need clarity, structure and reassurance. That's why my support is built around guiding people step by step, from idea to planning to Ofsted to opening. For some people, that starts with my course, which breaks down the entire process into clear, manageable steps. It covers everything from choosing the right building, to safeguarding, to Ofsted preparation, to financial planning, including tools that help people to understand their numbers properly rather than guessing. For others, it looks like mentorship, where they want decisions sense checked, questions answered and support tailored to their specific situation. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. My aim is simple, to help people open their nursery properly, confidently and sustainably, without wasting years or money along the way. And if you're serious about open nursery, that kind of support can make the difference between staying stuck and actually getting the doors open. And I want to be really clear about who this is for and who it isn't. This is for people who are genuinely serious about open nursery. People who don't just like the idea of it, but actually want to make it happen. It's for people who want clarity instead of guesswork, don't want to waste years going around in circles, understand that childcare is regulated and high stakes, and are open to guidance rather than trying to figure everything out the hard way. It doesn't matter if you're a practitioner ready to take the next step, a manager who wants their own setting, a parent changing career, or someone who's tried before and got stuck. What matters is that you want to do this properly. So if you're browsing or hoping there's a quick shortcut, this probably isn't for you. But if you want a clear path, honest guidance and support from someone who's seen this process through again and again, then you're exactly who I work with. So if you're thinking about open nursery and you want to avoid the mistakes that stop so many people from ever getting started, then my course and mentorship are here to support you. They exist because I've seen where people struggle. They exist because I've watched capable people lose confidence simply because they didn't have clarity. And they exist to help you move forward, not rush, not guess, and not do this alone. So whether you start by learning the process step by step or by getting direct support for your specific situation, the aim is the same: to help you open your nursery confidently, compliantly, and sustainably. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need the right support at the right time. So if this video resonated with you, reach out to me and click the link that's on the screen now. I'd also really recommend watching these videos next. One that's also on the screen, Can You Still Open Nursery in 2026, which looks at the bigger picture and what's possible right now. And another which you'll find in the description on passing your Ofsted inspection in 2026, which will help you understand what inspectors are really looking for. So head over there to continue learning, but if you're ready to take that first step, reach out by clicking the link that's on the screen. But finally, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. God bless.